Hey everybody, welcome to Fully Endorsed, episode 19. We know what episode it is. We did the work before we started recording.
We did the math. We went the whole 9 yards.
We know exactly what episode this is.
We kicked it up!
Yeah. What he just said.
I was gonna make that reference sooner or later.
Yeah, well, one of us would have.
Yeah.
If not you, it would have been me. You know. Now we just see how long it takes before we can work in. It's been 1 week since you looked at me. So, as you know by our dated references and the title of this video, we're talking Digimon today.
Yes.
I've gone sort of digi-crazy this year. I rewatched just all of the Digimon, and also me and Andres watched the Try movies, which is not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about something good.
Not the time for pain. That comes later.
Right. Now, today we're going to be talking about the 2020 Digimon reboot.
Yes.
Which is ongoing. I think this is the first time, we've done TV before, but this is the first time we've ever talked about something on this show that's still coming out.
Right. So we decided to check out the first 15 episodes that were available as of the time of this recording, which I think covers a decent chunk of this first arc with what they were trying to accomplish here. And so...
Absolutely. And I mean, pacing-wise, they pack a lot into 15 episodes. They pack a lot into 5 episodes, let alone 15.
Heck, they packed a lot into those first 2 episodes.
Right. There's a lot going on in this series.
Mm-hmm. It's so dense. Every single episode just has so much going on.
Exactly. A lot of nods to the past for those of us who remember that shit. While also a lot of interesting new choices and new directions and just newness of every variety. So with that said, I guess we'll get into it. Andres, as we generally do on this show, I guess we'll start with a very sort of basic sort of background type thing. Please talk about your history with this franchise, with the Digimons, and then give us your very general thoughts on the 2020 reboot.
Of course, yes, totally. So, I was, as a child of the 90s who grew up on Fox Kids in the late 90s, early 2000s, I pretty much grew up with a lot of the Digimons, the Pokios, and I vividly remember seeing the very first TV promos for Digimon Digital Monsters, or Digimon Adventure as it was known in Japan, and I pretty much was enthralled by the series. It was pretty much it was Pokemon, but with a much more fleshed out story, had a beginning, middle, and end, had amazing character and creature designs. Sure, it was very stilted in its animation, but it more than made up for it in its overall presentation. And it was clearly a smash hit and took America by storm. And so, of course, as the series eventually concluded, I continued onwards with Digimon 02. I'm not sure if it was ever... pretty much the first couple of Digimon series were always called Digimon Digital Monsters. I guess we kind of always refer to it as Season 1, Season 2, or Series 1, Series 2. But in Japan it was Digimon 02. Eventually that was replaced with Digimon Tamers. And I followed every one of these shows from beginning to end. And it wasn't until Digimon... during that time, I played several of the video games on the PlayStation 1. I had so many toys, especially those Transformer type of Digivolving toy action figures, and the non-transformable posable figures. Eventually, the 4th series came out. I believe it was called Digimon Frontier, and it's at that point that completely lost me, because since at that point they revamped the series, because with the exception of with the exception of Digimon Adventure and Adventure 02, every other show following those first two each took place in their own continuity, kind of like Transformers, where and so for Digimon Frontier it was so different. It kind of abandoned what made Digimon so cool to me personally, and that was the idea of a kid like you partnering up, having a monster for a best friend. And I thought
Right.
I fell
Frontier, Frontier, is that the one where they like fuse with their Digimon?
No, that was the very end of Tamers. That's how they achieved their mega evolutions.
I see.
Rather, it was Digimon Frontier that the Digidestins, I'm not sure if they're still called that in this show, become the Digimon. They essentially pull a Kamen Rider or Ultraman and transform into superheroes. And it's through there that they then, I believe they can like convert from like humanoid Digimon or beastly Digimon, or like they can combine their powers together to become fusions, similar to what 02 was doing. But yeah, it's like that premise alone, it's a cool premise, just, kids turning into superheroes. But at that point, it's like, well, I already got Power Rangers for that. So I just lost all interest in the series, and at that point, it became really hard to even find Digimon. I believe I saw one or two episodes of Digimon Savers on, I think it was like Disney Channel, like Jetix, I think. But it was like super hard. At that point, like by the fourth series, Digimon had lost all relevancy. It went from being like the number 2 thing after Pokemon to being like having like almost zero relevancy. And then it's like it did pick up a little bit of popularity with, what was it called? It was one where like the Digimon fused together like Lego pieces, and I saw.
Oh yeah, is that the one that wasn't even called Digimon in Japan, and they just sort of?
No, that was late. That was afterwards when they called it Applimon, and
right.
Funny enough, it's called Applimon because unlike us, where we abbreviate the word application to app, Japan abbreviates it to Appli, so that's where the name comes from. But
taking an abbreviation and making it less abbreviated. Well,
exactly. So Digimon kind of like I can't like again. I can only speak from my own experiences, but from what I saw, Digimon never reached the same heights, peak of popularity that it reached during the first 3 seasons. And yeah, also, I did watch the first, I watched the quote-unquote Digimon the movie in theaters when it came out, and I remember, I think we were late, and we saw the second portion of the series, so it's like, I completely missed out on the whole Agumon stuff, and then I had to I went to the bathroom, and then when I came back, it was the 02 stuff, so I was like, what the fuck happened? Why is everything so different now?
What kind of a time skip is this?
Yeah.
Because in the American market, didn't they introduce the O2 kids through that movie? I think, because didn't the movie come out before those new episodes started airing? We looked this up once.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up again for Digimon the movie.
If so, that's all kinds of weird, but I mean, weird pretty much defines that movie. I didn't get to see that movie in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it later on VHS, and honestly, it's probably a good thing, because I had already dragged my poor family to the Pokemon movies, and I don't think I could have explained Angela Anaconda,
Yeah.
That's not a conversation that I would have liked to have had, so in hindsight, I guess it all worked out.
Oh boy. Let's see. So, Saban Entertainment produced the English language adaptation of 02 between August 19th, 2000 and May 19th, 2001 as the second season of Digimon Digital Monsters. So yeah, August 19th, 2000, and Digimon the movie came out October 6th, 2000. Okay, so Digimon 02 was already out for a couple months when the movie came out, so it was not our introduction to the 02 cast.
Okay, I was wrong about that. I always thought that movie came out in the summer, but that was probably just an assumption based on how movies typically work.
I do vividly remember seeing Flame-Dramon and then like Vmon turning into his second armored form in the movie. I was like, oh, cool. I guess we're doing this now. I remember that. I saw that, I clapped, and I remembered that.
Dude, Pride rocks.
Honestly, you and I had several of those moments watching Digimon Adventure 2020.
Oh yeah, dude, Devimon.
Dude, Omnimon.
Dude, our war game again. For anyone who doesn't understand these references, I'm so sorry. This is not the episode for you.
Yeah, we are coming at this as like veteran Digimon fans of the old school Digimon series, who are just only recently rediscovering our love for this franchise.
Yeah, and it's really not controversial. That's not the word I'm looking for. Polarizing, actually. You know, when I was first doing the rewatch earlier this year of the original Digimon, then I told somebody I was doing that. Their immediate response was, "Why?"
Right. That's a weird thing. For the longest time, even though I remembered as I grew up, like I still loved Pokemon, yet by the time I entered like junior high school and high school, I completely abandoned my love for Digimon, meanwhile embracing my love for Pokemon. And it's like, I had like, even though I knew that at one point I fucking loved Digimon to death, I never had any motivation whatsoever to revisit it like I would any other thing from my past, from my childhood. And it was like a very weird thing with me, where it's like, I remember loving Digimon, but I'm in no hurry to revisit it, and I have no idea why.
As a child, I kind of went from one thing to another. You know, obviously I started out with Pokemon like everybody does. And then Digimon happened, and I was like, fuck Pokemon. These things. I mean, he's a fucking dinosaur with horns. This is way cooler than Pokemon.
With veins and muscles and cyborg enhancements.
And jeans. Everybody has jeans.
And belt buckles and spikes.
So many buckles. It was just that 90s extreme aesthetic.
Yeah.
All over the place, and I really dug it. And then,
ironic that we called it 90s, even though I believe this whole franchise started in 99.
Right. So yeah, Digimon kind of usurped Pokemon for a while, but then it all came crashing down when Yu-Gi-Oh happened.
Oh yes, that still continues to this. That still stays strong to this day.
So Yu-Gi-Oh came around and fucked both of them up, and then it was like, I don't want to hear nothing about no Pokemans or no Digimans. I'm all into Yu-Gi-Oh now, and I was.
I'm into the Yugi-mans now.
I'm all into that Yugi man. And I was into Yu-Gi-Oh well into the like GX era, but then by the time you get into 5Ds, I had sort of fallen off of that entirely, and then I entered the period of, I think we all of us as nerds, we go through a period of like, I'm not watching cartoons anymore, and then eventually we come back around to watching them again.
Look at what we're fucking talking about right now.
Exactly. And so I rediscovered my love of Digimon, and I was like, oh, it's like Pokemon, but it has a story.
Yes. Yeah, like
Ash character development.
Right. Like Ash will always like go through the motions, and like he'll get a new set of he'll travel to a new land, get a new set of Pokemon, lose to the Pokemon what was it called, the Pokemon League, until recently when he actually won, but that ultimately led to nothing because now he's on another adventure. Yeah,
he finally fucking won one,
and
after all these years.
It was honestly a smart decision for Digimon to take like the bold new step in understanding when to end a story and to introduce a next generation of kids. It's like, even if these kids may not be as memorable as the next crew, then you have another chance to introduce another new cast. It's like the Power Rangers formula, or Sentai, Ultraman, Kamen Rider, what have you. It's like, if you don't like this next group of kids as much, there's always like the next one to look forward to. And like, even though I guess generally people view 02 as an inferior sequel to the original Digimon Adventure, we ended up with Digimon Tamers, and people still to this day consider it one of the best, if not the best, Digimon shows.
Yeah, and see, I kind of missed out on that one back in the day. I was already out of Digimon by the time that was big, and I remember seeing a few episodes, but I never really watched that series all the way through. That's the next thing for me to binge, I think.
Like, even though like I have yet to revisit Digimon Tamers, I can tell you from my own childhood memories, I remember I was put through an emotional roller coaster with Digimon Tamers.
Right. Well, wasn't that one created by like some like famous anime guy who had like a very strong vision for that series?
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So it's It's a bit different because as much as we can praise the other Digimon shows as being, it's like Pokemon but with a story, there were times when it felt like they were making shit up as they went along,
Right. Yeah, and I guess since I kind of essentially gone over my history with Digimon, what was yours? I know you kind of given a few hints as to your feelings towards Digimon throughout the years.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it back in the day. I had some of the VHS tapes, where they would put like 4 or 5 episodes on a tape. Wore those the fuck out. I mean, I was really into it for a time, and then it was just one of those things that sort of came and went, as Yu-Gi-Oh happened. And then just this year rewatching it, and I was like, this is actually way better than I remember. It's not perfect, okay. There are issues with Digimon, obviously, especially given that I only watch the dub because I'm trash and not a weeb. But the dub certainly has its problems. But yeah, I really did a fucking deep dive this year and went all in, pushed my chips in on the Digimon train, and yeah. Love it. Don't really know what else to say. So I guess we can...
I think I remember why... I think I have an idea why I never had the motivation to revisit Digimon. I think it was because it's like... From my own childhood memories, I remember each season of the 3 Digimon shows that I watched. It was such a heavy emotional investment going into each series, where it's like once you start from the very beginning, you gotta continue it all the way through, and it's like there's so many twists and turns, so many like emotional moments, and it's like I guess when I was a teenager, it's like there was a part of me that didn't want to go through all of that again, because it's like I'm not sure if I'm ready if I'm mentally ready to go through all of that again.
Right.
So I think that.
And also, as you were saying, I think Digimon suffered a pretty severe fall from grace. That more so than any of these other similar franchises.
I guess so, and I guess it did. It got this sort of like what do you call it? Like people have this view. I guess not everybody nowadays. I feel like more and more people are starting to realize the qualities that Digimon Adventure had, but. Like, for a while, people always just viewed Digimon in a negative light, much like the person you were talking to a while back. People just see it as nothing more than a Pokemon ripoff. And so it's like, as Digimon lost its popularity and cultural relevancy, I guess it sort of became... There was a while where it was sort of, like, embarrassing to bring up Pokemon to people.
Right.
But
I feel like less embarrassing than Digimon though, because Pokemon at least has maintained a certain level of respect in certain communities, whereas Digimon very strongly, again as we mentioned, it's much more niche. I think these days, despite being a contender back then, I think it's nowadays it's far more of a niche property, and I think it goes back to Pokemon. Just being more consistent. It's the same fucking show. It's been on for 20 fucking years.
That is true, yeah. And we know, like, ever since the, starting with the Digimon Tri movies, that's when you know that they were really banking on the nostalgia, now that Digimon had entered its, like, 15th and eventually 20th anniversary. Appealing to like the older fans that haven't touched Digimon in so long.
Yeah, I think you're right. They are definitely banking on nostalgia. Less so though with this reboot. So let's start talking about this reboot, shall we?
Yes. Okay. Oh, by the way, so the writer of Digimon's Tamers was Chiaki J. Konaka. And according to Wikipedia, his serious works generally have a dark psychological tone, and I guess he's someone who also loves to play with Lovecraftian elements, which you can definitely see in Digimon Tamers. And apparently he also wrote a screenplay for The Big O, so hey, that's something there.
Hey!
Yeah, that's something we also know and love.
A man after my own heart.
All right, so
yeah.
Continue.
Yes. So, Digimon 2020. Where to begin? I guess we can just start with talking about the first episode. How do you feel about the sort of reintroduction of these characters, of this world? One interesting thing that I pointed out to you is that, in the original series, they introduced the characters very quickly. All 7 kids. We get all 7 kids in the first episode, and we have to very quickly learn their names, and they get thrust into this situation, and then it's just a go. So they introduce those kids very quickly, and then they unfurl the story much more slowly, sometimes painfully so.
Right.
Whereas in this show so far, the story has been moving incredibly quickly, but the characters' introductions have been much more we still haven't met all the kids.
Right.
We have most of the kids, but we're 15 episodes in, and TK is still not on the crew. Also, by the way, I'm going to be referring to them by their English names. Okay, people. So don't at me in the comments.
Right.
Talk or whatever.
It's not Matt. It's Yamato.
I can't. Okay, I can't. I've gotten used to hearing those names when I'm watching it, but I can't call Izzy Koshiro. I can't do it. I'm sorry.
You can refer to the main character as Taichi. You got to go with Tai.
Right, he'll always be Tai to me. Yeah.
Much like how Daisuke will always be Davish.
Exactly. So, just gonna put that out there now. English names. So anyway, we still have not gotten TK, and although we've met Kari, she is not yet on the squad, which is not weird in the history of Digimon. Obviously, she was always sort of the last one to join the crew. Right. And based on where the story is going, I think we're going to get TK very soon. But that's just an interesting...
Especially given the new outro for the show.
The new outro, the object of their quest, which I'm pretty sure is a little orange Digimon that we all remember.
Right.
And so, I think we're going to be getting him very soon. But that's very interesting that we're 15 episodes in, and the main 7 aren't even there yet. Really, this show doesn't have a core 7. It has a core 6, and the other 2 are going to get added later on. Right. But yeah, so how do you feel about that? About the sort of slow introductions of these characters, getting to know them a little better before sending them on their adventure?
I personally love it. It's both it both like slows down and speeds up, so it's like it doesn't feel like it's introducing too much at the same time at once. It doesn't feel like it's rushing at this as well. It's going at a much more natural path for them. So it's like you can tell that the writer or writers or the people behind this show looked at the original series, saw what worked, saw what didn't, and, going by, I guess, today's standards of, anime show writing, I suppose they managed to craft a new version that feels familiar while also feeling fresh at the same time. And given how, this is right around as we are recording, this is the weekend after Mulan came out on Disney Plus and theaters in certain countries, and, people have derided Mulan as well as other Disney remakes. They've been the Disney remakes in general have become a sort of hot topic amongst a hot topic of discussion amongst people who within film circles. And so these people have criticized the remakes for either being too similar to their original animated counterparts or so different that they lost the point of what made the original so special, like in the case of Mulan. So this is, I feel is a pure clear-cut definition of what makes a good remake, where, it's got everything you know and love from the original series. The characters still feel like the characters. The bonds with the Digimon feel genuine as well as, with each other, their bonds with each other. The Digimon still feel very threatening. Devimon, he's got a really great slow build-up. We still haven't technically seen him in all his devilish glory. They're doing a very interesting retake of a new take rather on the lore of the Digimon involving the supposed holy Digimon. They're referring to a great war from the past and how the Digimon themselves are the reincarnated warriors, are several of the many reincarnated warriors from the past. So it's like you've kind of like it feels like a fresh take, and at the same time it feels so familiar, which is kind of ironic given how everyone was sort of freaking out with episode 2. Because the first 2 episodes, interestingly enough, is a straight up like homage to Our War Game, which for those who don't,
it's a remake. It's the 3rd version of Our War Game that we have watched together this year, Andres. Do you realize that? We watched the original. We watched Summer Wars, which
it's a loose adaptation, a loose retelling of Our War Game.
Right, it's not a Digimon movie, but it's an anime, a very well-known and respected anime film by the same guy who made Our War Game that basically retells the story without Digimon, and it's very good. Mm-hmm. And if we hadn't already watched it together, it would have made a great episode.
Yes.
What are you gonna do?
Right.
So
maybe we'll review someday in the future when we do a bunch of Digimon reviews.
So we watched those.
Yes.
And now we watched this.
Yes. So it's like it honestly, despite feeling super like despite taking me aback, I did like how episode 1 it introduces Tai and Izzy, but at the same time focusing more primarily on Tai and Agumon's relationship and introducing the concept of digivolving. And boy, what a way did they introduce digivolving. Like having Agumon turning into Greymon in real time was such a spectacular sight to see. And even though like the animation is never as impressive as it was, it does get great, but you can tell like for a lot of anime they like to spend a little bit more money on the pilot episode just to get people's attention.
Right.
And I think they used the budget wisely. They spread the budget wisely throughout the series. But like this first episode, it definitely got me hooked. And by the second episode, where they introduce Matt and Gabumon, and eventually introducing his Digivolutions, and then I thought was like a natural progression for this for this story. And I liked how the first 2 episodes essentially tell a one-off story that then later escalates into a bigger threat that now requires all of the Digimon, the Digidestins and their Digimon, all the protagonists essentially to get involved.
Right.
So
exactly.
I thought,
in essence, in this universe, Our War Game, or this version of it, is the new Parrotmon incident.
Yes.
It's the sort of inciting incident that brings the awareness of the Digimon into the real world and gets these kids swept up into the drama.
Right. And yeah, it feels at first it sounds strange, like why would you use a movie plot to start off the series? But it does make sense just because the movie plot was it's a large scale incident and at the same time very small scale. So yeah, it's a great thing.
It sounds counterintuitive. That would be like, we're gonna do a reboot of Dragon Ball and the first 2 episodes are gonna be a remake of Cooler's Revenge, and you would be like, what? But it's way better than that sounds.
Right. It gives you a small, a short-lived conflict to get the ball rolling before introducing a more complicated conflict that gives them a much longer time limit, as opposed to, oh fuck, we got 5 minutes before the fucking nuke drops on us.
Right. I am very impressed with how they've sort of spread out the budget on these episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is Toei.
Mm-hmm.
They've been known to fuck up in the past. We all remember the controversy over the 5th episode of Dragon Ball Super.
Oof. Yeah. We know their tendency of like rushing productions and getting inexperienced animators on board and a whole bunch of other stuff, like a lot of miscommunication and a lot of stuff that I believe Totally Not Mark went into when discussing the Dragon Ball Super's animation with his fellow artist friends.
Right, I believe there was also a similar incident involving the Sailor Moon reboot.
Yes, yeah. So I think what happened there was I I believe they were too close to the art style of the manga, so like what works on page doesn't really translate well to animation. And even then, it's a lot of people complain about that, and so the Blu-ray releases ended up with much nicer animation as a result of the backlash.
Right, that's been Toei's MO. They've been like, just release it. We got to get this out. Just release it now, and we'll patch it later.
Right, fuck it, we'll do it live.
We'll do it live. If you thought Cats 2019 was outrageous for releasing an unfinished film, Toei's been doing this for years.
Yeah.
But it seems like, and maybe it's just because they knew that the 20th anniversary of Digimon was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they took more time to plan, because, you know, Dragon Ball Super, that was a very quick production from the time they announced that series to the time it's starting.
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately why they made the choice to just remake those movies for the first couple story arcs, which was a fucking dumbass decision. Just take longer to make your show. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, that hasn't really been a problem here. I mean, yes, they spend more money on certain episodes, certain moments. But I would say there's at least one like moment per episode where like you go, ooh, that looked cool, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like in the episode where they introduce Mimi, there's this great shot of Togemon when she's fighting.
Ooh, yes.
I think it was called Drillmon in the English, but in the Japanese it's like Dromomon, whatever. The big mole with the drills for fingers and nose. She's like jumping up in the air and like punching it and like giving it like these combos and shit, and it looks, you know, amazing. Not as great as like, you know, Agumon's first Digivolution or, you know, Agumon's next Digivolution in episode 10, I think it was. But still really impressive, and so I think they've done a pretty good job for the most part of like at least having it look pretty consistent. And then really, you know, going all out when they want added impact for a particular moment. And I'm glad that you mentioned that the characters still felt like the characters, because that's a very important thing for Digimon. I feel.
If there's anything that people to this day praise about the original Digimon Adventures, it was how real the characters felt. And
exactly. Having just rewatched it recently, Digimon is similar to another one of my favorite franchises, Star Trek, in that it's very much an ensemble thing. You know, you have your protagonist, you know, you have Tai. He's more so a protagonist in this series than he even was in the original series. In the original series, it really is a team effort, you know. And sure, certain members of the team get a little bit more shine than others, but they're all there for a reason. They all feel important, and they also all have very distinct, fleshed out personalities. And I think that this new show has nailed that so far, while also taking some interesting new directions.
That's true. Yeah, I think like one of the biggest ones we noticed was like Izzy and Ty's like friendship. They're
yes, I love this universe's Izzy and Ty. They're like best bros in this universe, and that like sort of became a thing later in the old continuity with Our War Game. That all of a sudden they were just together all the time, and you're like, well, that wasn't really a thing in the show. But in this,
it's normally kind of like Ty and Matt with having like a friendly rivalry, or just like them being assholes to each other. Right.
This time, those two, the first two kids that meet, and they're very much like tight, like throughout the whole thing, and that's cool. That's a nice dynamic. Ty is like a really great wingman for Izzy. Every time he introduces him to somebody, he's like, "This kid's fucking awesome. He's got this tablet. He fucking looks up everything. I don't know how to work a toaster oven. This kid's going places." Like,
right. It's you know, it's very heartwarming. It's very innocent. It's very charming. It like immediately like it might sound weird, but it immediately like captures your heart. It's like, yeah, I can get behind these two.
Right. And then Matt.
Yeah, Matt. It's like I like with Matt because like they could have easily gone the sort of asshole loner route that they have taken actually before with several other Digimon shows and like countless other shows. It's like a really annoying cliche where it's like, oh, I don't need friends. I've got I got strength. Or you know, and then eventually they learn. Every
anime of this type has to have its Vegeta character, you know.
Yeah, but
your
it's
Vegetas,
not
your
really.
Sasuke's, your
yeah.
He wasn't that in the original show.
Your Hiei's.
your Hiei's. all those
Friends
guys.
only get in the way.
Like, yeah, he's not that.
Mm-hmm.
He acts like that sometimes, but his motivations are very different, and they point that out very well in this series. They do a great job of sort of introducing you to his character and also explaining what he's all about.
Mm-hmm. Also,
and really getting you to care about him and like him.
Also, given his like very quiet personality, I feel like he's even more so quiet. He's more quiet than his original incarnation from the original series. I get the feeling that he might be some kind of like introverted individual, someone who doesn't really do a whole lot of socializing as much as the other characters.
It'll be interesting to see how his character develops once we actually throw TK into the mix.
Mm-hmm,
because right now TK is like off in the distance. And this is something that the show does really well, is that if you're a longtime fan of Digimon, you know that Matt has a little brother, and you understand that part of his motivation. And so you get all that going in. But if you're a new fan, if you're a new person who's just watching this show and has no history with the franchise, you don't find out that Matt has a brother for a while. I mean, you see him talking to him on the phone at one point in an early episode, but he doesn't tell the rest of the crew that that's what's going on until episode, 11 or 12, something like that. It's like in the middle. It's like in the middle of the quest that they're currently on. That's
very true. Yeah, I believe they might have like a small conversation, and then like early on in the show, but you don't see TK, and then like he actually tells the rest of his group, because at one point they split off into two groups, which they currently are as of this recording. It's like it's not until like, what was it, episode, I want to say 11 or 12, 11 or 12, no, 11 that he finally tells them, it's like, yeah, I got a brother, so that's why I want to go get this over with as soon as possible so I can make sure he's safe.
Right. And also you understand his character's actions so much more when you understand that part of him. Because he's like in big brother protective mode all the time. He's not the Vegeta who rides into battle alone because he doesn't think that he needs anybody else. He rides into battle alone because he doesn't want to put other people at risk. And they point that out very, very well, and they establish that as motivation for his character. And it's nice, it's a good way of having your trope but doing it in a different way.
Yeah, that's very true. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with using tropes. For me, it's like it's all about the execution and how well you can execute and maybe even put your own spin on it. And they definitely did so here. And you could say in a way they subverted my expectation. This show subverted my expectations.
No, Jesus.
Let's see. I'm not sure. This was one thing that you mentioned when it came to the character of Joe, where you weren't sure if this was ever a thing in the original series because this was something that was more noticeable through the Japanese language, and that was how Joe was an older character, and thus people kind of sort of looked up to him as a senpai. And I guess for those who don't know, in Japanese culture, the oldest person is often automatically given like the most respect or looked up to in higher regards, and thus they are referred to as the senpai. If you are younger, you are the kohai. So,
right, and again, I don't know if this was a thing in the original version, because again, I haven't watched the Japanese version.
Yeah, and there's no real natural translation for senpai. You could say, "Oh, my senior," but Americans don't really say that. English speakers don't really say, "Oh, that's my senior, so and so."
Right. Yeah, not on like a regular basis like that,
Right.
Because that's like a running thing in this show, is that they call Joe senpai all the time. And he has this interesting like complex about him where he feels like, oh, I'm the oldest, I need to take charge, I need to be the leader in the situation, and just failing to do so.
Yes, and on top of that, it's like this was something that was definitely clearly seen in previous versions of Joe, where he is super obsessed with studying. He wants to go into despite the fact that he's only in elementary school, he's already studying super hard to get into a good good junior high school, which is possible in certain cases where you need to take an entrance exam to enter a private junior high school in Japan. But normally, most kids don't have to worry about that stuff until they take the entrance exams for high school, not junior high school. So already this guy's kind of like an emotional wreck, because I feel like his character is sort of like a commentary on like the immense pressure parents tend to put on their kids. In terms of, like, because for Joe, he comes from a family of doctors, so it's like, oh shit, I gotta get my shit all together, I gotta get to the best school so I can become a doctor just like all my... It's like, Jesus Christ, you're only like, what, 11 or 12 or some shit? It's like, chill the fuck out, man.
I feel like there's a lot of sly social commentary in this show, not just with Joe being like a representation of like societal pressure in Japan, but also like, what's the big crisis that they're fighting right now? They started with nukes, and it's like, where do we go from nukes? What's the escalation from nukes? And then the next storyline, the arc that we're in right now, the prolonged difficulty is, oh no, Tokyo doesn't have any electricity.
Yes, and what's crazy is like, there's like a nationwide announcement telling people not to travel, and as someone who currently lives in Japan, we are currently going through the same thing where people are telling us not to travel, but they're now advertising us that it's okay to travel. But the fact is, for the longest time, people in Japan were not allowed to travel as a result of the you-know-whats that I guess YouTubers are not allowed to say. Fuck it. Because of the coronavirus. So it's like, I can't help but feel... demonetized. I think it's okay. I don't even make any money from YouTube. So I can't help but... It was most likely a coincidence, but it's kind of interesting that Japan is going through, much like the rest of the world, is going through a bit of a crisis. Meanwhile, that's like sleuths that I can, as someone as a resident of Japan, I could relate to what was going on there. Right.
But it's interesting. It's like, hey, look how technologically dependent Tokyo is.
That's true.
I don't know if that's intentionally like supposed to be commentary. Like, look, if we had a blackout of Tokyo, we'd be fucked. But it's something that I've been thinking about while watching it. Not to say that we all hate blackouts. I mean, I fucking hate when there's a blackout, but usually it's not like a world-ending threat, especially right after nuclear annihilation was on the table.
Although there was that one portion where like a building was on fire, and given how we just had the 19th anniversary of the 9/11 attack, it's like, ooh, wow, what timing?
Right. That's true.
Yeah. Let's see.
I didn't hear a lot of people talking about 9/11. Usually when it's 9/11, there's like a big deal about 9/11. I didn't hear anybody talking about 9/11. I guess it's because it's 2020 and every day is 9/11. So it's like, eh.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess it's like, I don't. I think it's another conversation for another time. But yeah, I can sort of see what you mean there. Anyways, back to something that isn't horrifyingly real. So that isn't as horrifyingly real.
Right. This is a world where monsters are coming out of the internet to threaten the real world, and it's a better timeline. So let's talk about...
Oh my god, yeah, it's so sad but true.
So let's talk about the fake 2020.
Let's see. Mimi. I'm not sure if Mimi was ever established to be a rich girl, but it does sort of go well with her kind of spoiled brat mentality, and works as a great starting point for her character arc as she matures through the series.
I'm not sure if that was ever stated in the original series either, but it definitely tracks. I mean, the way she acts, she's definitely eccentric given her country western outfit.
Yeah, funny, given, despite the various changes that they've made to the character designs, I thought her design would change the most, given how kind of out there it is by Japanese fashion, heck, even by American fashion standards.
Nope, she's the exact same. Also, there was that thing in the original, what was it? She was taking a vacation in Hawaii at one point.
Mm-hmm.
She goes to live in America for a long time.
She gets pink hair.
She gets pink hair. It definitely makes sense that she's a wealthy person.
True. Let's see. And then we had Sora. Sora was introduced very early on, and she seems to be the only person that Tai knew prior to the start of the series.
Yes.
And she's pretty much the same as always. She's like the compassionate one. She is the one that sort of like she's sort of like the heart of the team. And I think that's what her crest was. They haven't gone into the crests yet. You see the crest, the symbols that kind of represent each of the characters' biggest attributes. I believe
right, but they haven't explained what those attributes are yet.
Right, yeah. But you can definitely see them in those traits. Again, for fans of the original series, you can see those traits, the characters embody those traits as the series progresses.
Right, wasn't Tai courage or something?
I only remember Tai as courage. Sora was love, and I find it very interesting that I believe she in the original series she was the last person for Digimon to achieve the ultimate level, and here she's like the first person right after Matt and Tai.
Yeah, I think you're right,
or at least one of the first.
Yeah, actually, it might have been Joe. Joe was definitely last for. Maybe it was champion level. Joe was the last one for. Well, no, TK was last. I don't know.
Oh wait, hold on. It was Mimi, then Sora. It was Tai, Matt, Mimi, Sora, then Izzy, and then finally Joe.
Yes.
As of now.
Right.
Yeah, and that's another weird thing. Like, I guess, let's see, well, we've talked about most of the characters at this point, and we mentioned Izzy. Izzy's like, he's Ty's best bro, and there was something odd, not odd, but something I wanted to bring up, and that was like, this is our first time really listening to the Japanese voice cast, because like we've watched almost everything, with the exception of like the Japanese versions of the original short films. But it's so funny watching these original Japanese voices. I believe most of them are like returning voice actors, similar to Dragon Ball Super. But it's like, so which
is amazing to me. Like, apparently Japanese voice actors just never die. They never get old. Like they're all everybody. It's the same way with Dragon Ball. For the most part, everybody's there. Yeah.
Speaking of Dragon Ball, I can confirm that was Masako Nozawa at Goku herself as the narrator for this series. I don't know.
Nice.
I don't know if that was a thing in the original Digimon, but I'm glad it is here. But listening to the Japanese voices, I gotta say, like, normally I know Japan almost prides itself on like cute kawaii culture, and like for me that's really isn't so much my thing. Like, I can appreciate cute characters, right. But it's like, normally when a character has like
I remember when we were watching that first episode, you were like, his voice is so cute.
I know, right. It's like, it had an effect on me that never affects me anywhere else. And it's probably because it's Digimon, so it's like, these are characters that are very near and dear to my heart, so maybe that's what got me a reaction out of me hearing them in these brand new adorable voices. I remember you had the same feeling towards Gomamon's voice actor.
Yeah, that's true. It's weird. It's definitely weird getting used to the Japanese voices. It's a similar thing to when I watched Dragon Ball Super. Right. It's very similar to when I was watching Dragon Ball Super as it was airing, because I had always, heard the English voices prior to that. And it's just, there are some shows like Dragon Ball, like Digimon, that, like, I'm sorry, I can't go back and watch the Japanese version. I can't do it because those American voices are so iconic to me. When I think of Digimon, those are the voices that I think of. Mm-hmm. And so much of it is just the Digimon saying the names of the people that they're partners with.
Joe!
Like,
Izzy, we must stop the Digimon.
It's me, Tentomon.
Tentomon. Gabumon.
Davis.
He's not even in the series.
I know. And the kids too, English Tai has a very distinct voice. Kari has a very specific voice. Yeah, so many of them. Their voices are so ingrained in my brain that even now, 15 episodes in, I'm like, that's not Tai. That's not what he's supposed to sound like.
Well, technically, Dylan, it's Tai Chi. You're right. You're right. It isn't Tai. It's Tai Chi.
Fucking
Weebs.
fucking weebs.
But
I'd like to apologize if there are any weebs listening to this episode.
Yeah, never take anything we say seriously. Not even the entirety of this video, including the entirety of this video.
Your views are valid. You is special. You is important. With
one extra tidbit that I thought was very interesting upon listening to the Japanese voice cast, and this was something I kind of picked up as well from the Japanese versions of those initial movie shorts, that they never changed the voice actor when they digivolve. Rather, you can tell it's the same voice actor putting on a deeper voice. So, like, hearing these, like, obviously female voice actors for these, like, rookie-level Digimon putting on, like, deeper, more manly, masculine voices is pretty funny to hear.
I mean, you were talking about Mulan earlier. It's a lot like Mulan trying to pretend she's a dude. You know?
Yes, that's true.
All of a sudden, the voice actress is like, so, I'm Greymon now, and, just out here being a man, you know?
Just dudes being bros.
Dudes being bros. And it's like, if you're a female Digimon, what do, you know?
They kind of just sound more like, I guess they just use it sounds like listening to Bergermon, like Togemon definitely puts on a more masculine voice, because like Togemon always had that tomboyish personality, which is ironic given her evolution to Lilymon. But
right.
With Bergermon does the same thing. Like Bergermon, I guess in the English version was also very masculine. Especially when you look at, like, even with Garudamon. But I think in the Japanese dub, Bergermon puts on a more just, like, generally a mature woman's voice. And then becomes more masculine with Garudamon.
I feel sorry for Bergermon. She's definitely my least favorite of the champion level Digimon. She's just so... She's just so ugly.
What, you don't like birds with fleshy beaks with teeth jutting, Shin Godzilla style teeth just jutting out?
I do not.
But
I'd like to avoid what you just said.
Yet you're willing to give the xenomorph bug of Kabuterimon the chance.
Yes, because that's awesome.
That's the thing. One thing I definitely want to say is I'm surprised that, like, aside from a few outfit changes amongst the Digidestins, the main protagonists, I was really pleasantly surprised that all the designs of the Digimon were all preserved and look exactly the way they did in the original series. They didn't try to do...
As you said, this franchise is banking on nostalgia these days, and I think this series is an attempt to bank on that nostalgia while also hopefully roping in some new blood, some new viewers. And so, they got to stick to those designs, or else people would fucking riot. And, I feel so bad for Japanese animators. It's a really hard life, but at the same time, part of me is just filled with glee at these people being like, Jesus, who designed this shit? It's got blue jeans and, like, 5 straps on the arm. And
hold on, we gotta animate this for how many episodes?
I gotta draw this how many times in the next 2 hours? Why are there those holes on Kabuterimon's horn? What is that for? What do they do? What's their function?
Do we really need to add this sort of, like, these scars and stitches all over these characters' design? Really? Oh, fuck.
Do all of the marching fishes have to have unique faces? They do? Okay.
Yeah, it's like... I guess, it definitely tickles the nostalgia bone to see all these characters the way they were, and not have some shit like Geo Greymon from Digimon Savers, where it's like they gotta change up the design and add some more color, give some more spikes, or any of those like weird Digimon X versions. Like, I'm just gonna send you a version of Greymon and Geo Greymon right now, Dylan, on Skype.
Oh yes, I've seen them both in the mobile game, which I also played.
Okay.
Quite a bit of this year. And it's like... Yeah.
Let me see if I can find Greymon X. or X Greymon, whatever they're called. Yeah, that was that weird, like, or no, rather, I'll just look up what was it, War Greymon X. Yeah, that's a more radical departure looking. Yeah. Oh boy, they straight up turned him into like a Gundam looking thing. Copy and paste. Yeah, so I'm very glad that they stayed faithful to those designs. I feel like, despite their like 90s edge to a lot of these designs, I still feel like they work in the modern day. Then again, I'm not a child of the 2010s or the 2000s, so it's like I'm not sure if younger kids these days find these designs just as appealing. I can only attest.
Younger kids these days are too busy with their TikToks and their
and their yokai watches. That's the popular thing. Actually, no, I think yokai watch is on its way out. Maybe that's why Digimon decided to come back.
What's the current popular anime amongst the kids? If anybody's listening to this who's like 12 or whatever, first of all, don't go, leave. This is not appropriate.
I know Shinkalion is pretty popular these days with the kids, the transforming train robots. Yeah,
but those are Japanese kids. I've never heard of that over here, so I don't know.
It doesn't. I've never heard of it, so it doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
Let's see. So yeah, I would love to know how kids are reacting. I know fans are generally enjoying. I know fans freaked out over the radical departure of how Digimon 2020 started out, but I feel like
So. One of the main controversies, and this goes into something that we should definitely discuss, revolved around a certain Digimon popping up at the end of the second episode.
Right. That being Omnimon, who is like the strongest character in the entire adventure lore.
Well, you say that, but there was also the upgraded Omnimon, whatever the fuck it's called, from the last Try movie.
Right, with the blue and white heavenly wings. Okay, yeah, but it's still Omnimon. So they introduced the most powerful Digimon that the Digidestins have access to in the original continuity in the second episode. And people freaked out. And
they did. They lost their shit. This is all part of, readapting our war game, because Omnimon was first introduced.
Yeah, he's the one that kicked it up!
Yes, to show them all the things that he can do. And those are the lyrics of the song, for anyone who doesn't know it. He's going digital, completely digital. Now he's invincible. No, but so it was a bit of a controversy, and I don't know. I've seen this done in other anime before, though, where you introduce the ultimate final form thing super early on as like a special thing under like special circumstances, and then the characters have to spend the rest of the series trying to do that again.
Yes, although I wish they would at least acknowledge it, because it's like, as soon as Matt and Tai reunited, because it was a perfect excuse to why they couldn't do Omnimon again, because it's like, oh, hey, now these characters that were together are now separated. But when they got back together, they never said, hey, let's try doing that thing again. Like, obviously, as we see in the show...
And I'm not even sure if they understand what happened. Right. Because, like, any time that they have brought it up, like, whether it be Tai or Izzy, it's always been like that white Digimon that showed up. I'm like, did y'all not get that was your two Digimon? Okay, whatever, Like, y'all never watched Yu-Gi-Oh? You don't know about polymerization? All right.
I understand, like, within the series itself, I like the excuse that it was some sort of, like, divine intervention that came in and gave Agumon and Gabumon the power boost they needed to fuse into Omnimon. And I like the idea, like, eventually they'll get to a point where they can reach those heights completely on their own. Or, who knows, maybe, again, because TK and Kari were sort of involved in that, so it's like maybe when Angemon and Angewomon eventually get reintroduced in this continuity, maybe they'll have a hand in resurrecting Omnimon, kind of like how they randomly introduced the golden armor Digi-Eggs from that one movie.
Right, or how in the show they had to shoot Tai and Matt with arrows.
Oh shit, you're right about that, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, I'm not sure what they're going to do afterwards, but it's like, from what I can tell, I do like the direction of that. And I guess the other controversial thing that they've did here, like, I guess controversial in quotes, air quotes, is that they are kind of rushing through the Digivolutions. Now, like in the original series, I guess like to explain to non-Digimon fans, like Pokemon, Digimon can evolve into larger, bigger forms, and so
it's called well, in Japanese it's called Shinka, which is just means evolution.
Yes.
But in America, where we do it right, it's called
the Digivolution is up and ready.
Running. Did you know? Did you hear?
Oh, what's coming?
No, it's called Digivolution because I feel like the dub writers.
Yeah,
the dub writers. I think it was Saban, wasn't it? They felt the need to
distance themselves, right?
To shove the word digi into anything they could. Yeah. So evolution becomes Digivolution. The chosen ones become the Digi-destined. And apparently the word Digivice actually did come from the Japanese, so that's nice. At least that's consistent.
Prodigious!
Prodigious! God, I hope he says that if we ever get a dub. By the way, I'm just going to say this now. Let's get a dub of that. I want a dub tomorrow. I want it. Funimation, get on it,
Do it!
Just do it.
Do it.
Hopefully there's not some weird thing where Saban still has the rights in America or whatever, because I would really love to see somebody who knows what they're doing to dub this and get everybody back.
Yes.
Whoever dubbed those Try movies, as much as I don't like those Try movies, the dubbing in those was pretty good. So just do this. There's no reason not to.
Yeah, totally. So these Digimons, they can digivolve into bigger and stronger monsters. So, we got, the base form, which is called, in America, it's called the rookie form, then they evolve into their champion forms, then later on in the series, they get to their ultimate forms, and only Gabumon and Agumon in the original series can achieve Mega level. And,
in the mobile game, and I don't know if this is a thing anywhere else other than in the mobile game, they refer to Omnimon as being ultra level, meaning that there's a whole other level above Mega.
They'll reach a level beyond Mega Saiyan.
This isn't even their final form.
So, it took a while in the original series to acquire these new transformations, and these transformations worked as a great... Oh yeah, they worked as a great plot device as a representation of character development. Once a character overcomes their personal, mental, physical struggles as a person, once they overcome their internal struggles, then that growth is represented through their Digimon unlocking a new level of power. Much like any other shonen series, Super Saiyan.
It was one per story arc,
Yes.
First it was, we need to reach our rookie form so that we can protect these kids that just showed up in the digital world. Then it was we gotta fight Devimon, so we need to all become champion levels. Oh no, Myotismon. We all need to become ultimate to beat him. And then, oh no, the Dark Masters are even stronger than Ultimates. What are we gonna do? And then
at that point, they're just relying on everybody just attacking in full force.
Right. So it was a very slow thing.
Yeah.
Because it's 52 episodes, 54 episodes, something like that.
54.
I think it took something like 30 of those before we got everybody's ultimate forms.
Yeah. So
the new show has done that in half that time. We are 15 episodes in, and all 6 of the main kids. Mm-hmm. Again, this is not including TK because he hasn't been introduced yet. This show, as I mentioned before, really has a main 6 instead of a main 7 so far. But all 6 of those kids all have their ultimate forms already, and we're only 15 episodes in, which is fucking bananas.
Right. So, in the original series, it took about 20 episodes for Agumon to reach his ultimate level, Metal Greymon, and in this series, it took half that time with episode 10, introducing Metal Greymon in one of the coolest fights I've ever seen in my life. And it's again,
although...
Also, Kaiju community, you disappoint me for not talking about this series.
Absolutely. Why isn't nobody talking about this? Especially because
stop bitching about the Godzilla anime trilogy and watch Digimon.
Exactly, the Godzilla anime trilogy. Listen, it's over. I hate it too. It's in the past. And the past can hurt. But now, we have this.
What was it? What was the thing from the for that Kylo Ren said? Destroy the past. Kill it if you have to.
Yeah, let the past die.
Yes, yeah. That's what he said.
I'm not saying that. That's kind of Maoist. I'm just saying let's move on. You know?
I know. I'm just being stupid here. I'm just being silly.
Shit. What was it? I was building up to a point, and now I've. It is a little weird though to me because this was such an iconic part of the original series, and it doesn't mean that this still couldn't happen later on in some way. But we got Metal Greymon, no Skull Greymon so far in this continuity. For those of you who don't know, in the original continuity, when they were first trying to achieve their ultimate forms and failing to do so, Matt, I keep mixing up. Ty. He tried to way too hard to force Agumon to digivolve into his ultimate form, Metal Greymon, but he didn't know that at the time. And as a result, Agumon wound up mutating into this weird abomination called Skull Greymon. I think he only appears one time.
Yes, he did.
That one time. And he left such an impression on young me. He's such a cool and scary creature. He's super powerful. And so that was always the progression. First, they try to do it and it fails and he turns into Skull Greymon. Then they try it again and get it right and he turns into Metal Greymon. Right. In this show, we didn't get a Skull Greymon. We went straight into Metal Greymon. So it makes me wonder, are we going to get a Skull Greymon? Are they going to find a way to reintroduce that later on? Maybe they'll save that for when he's trying to go Mega.
Yeah. By the way, I just shared with you a meme right here that perfectly utilizes Skull Greymon.
Oh, that's great.
It's one for to explain to the audience. It's a meme of that. My plans, something positive. 2020, something negative. So my plans, Metal Greymon represented by Metal Greymon. 2020 representing Skull Greymon.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. That's fantastic.
So I was thinking perhaps the reason why things are going at a very brisk pace is because this is a much shorter series, and that they got to move things along and they can't just wait. They can't waste any time. Until I found out that apparently, according to Wikipedia, which takes its source from, I believe, Toei Animation Europe, they announced that this series is 66 episodes long. That's roughly 15 or so episodes longer than the or it was 54. So yeah, it's 12 episodes longer supposedly than the 54 episode Digimon Adventure series from 99. So I'm thinking,
which just raises so many questions. What are they going to do? How are they going to fill out that time? I assume that they're going to introduce everybody else's megaforms into this show that were created for the Tri movies.
We did see the silhouettes of their megaforms when they flash back to the war that these Digimon came from.
Right, and that's a great scene. Yeah, but we saw a little bit of the only one whose name I remember is Vicamon. That's the one that Zudomon turns into. Yeah,
Phoenixmon, we also saw that. I believe we saw Magnadramon, which was Gaudomon's Mega, Seraphimon, Patamon's Mega, and of course Wargreymon, Metal Garurumon, Hercule Kabuterimon, and Rosemon. I remembered all of them. Yes!
Good job.
I'm vindicated.
Rosemon, a slightly more... I don't know. It's just Lilymon slightly different.
Well, actually, it's like Lilymon mixed with Jessica Rabbit. Or rather, it's straight up Jessica Rabbit with a rose on her head.
Yeah, they gave it that the big titties, didn't they?
Yeah. Some major boobage there.
Tiggo bitties.
Oh boy, how is Twitter going to react to that when that gets localized?
To the Tiggo bitties so poorly. I feel like Angelomon is going to raise some.
Oh God, you're right.
These days, it was a different time.
Well, anyways, so we're barely again, if it's true, and this series is 66 episodes long, that means we have roughly we're barely not even a quarter of the way through this series. So I am genuinely curious where this series is going. They're clearly building up towards a confrontation with Devimon. I don't know if they're going to throw in Edamon, Myotismon, the Dark Masters, Apocalypmon,
Could they even throw in some 02 stuff? Could we get Davish and
maybe
Yoli and the other kid?
That kid with the I don't know. Cody.
Cody.
It'll be interesting. Like, what if
and the Digimon Emperor, the greatest villain in the history of Digimon.
What if they ended up doing like a time skip halfway through the series and just like the first 33 episodes is 01 and the next 33 is 02? I hope it's not, because I want to see these characters. I like the cast more than enough to see them all the way through. But yeah, I am definitely curious to know where this is all going. Right.
I'm of two minds about it. On the one hand, you're right. Like, only getting 33 episodes with the original cast would feel would be sad. But at the same time, it's like, those 02 kids, they got so shafted in the Tri movies.
Yes.
Where were they? Where were they, Andres?
You people don't know, but Dylan and I, throughout our entire viewing of the Tri movies together, we were like, "What? Isn't anyone gonna do something about the missing 02 kids? Why the fuck why are you fucking about in a bathhouse?
Why aren't Kari and TK talking about this? They were their friends." What about Davish?
What about Davish?
Davish. Who's gonna run that noodle cart if not for Davish?
Who's gonna talk about Attack on Titan on YouTube? I'm referring to my friend Davis, aka Titan Koji, by the way. Who's gonna do that?
Thank you for clarifying that joke.
By the way, Davis knows about the Davish thing now. I explained to him this weekend.
Good. So
he's horrified that there's an anime character out there that shares his name.
Oh, he didn't know that, like, at all. That's
not at all. He's too young for Digimans.
I've never talked to this person, but if I ever do, I'm going to be fighting the urge really hard to just not go like Davish the whole time. It's going to be so awkward.
Right. Well, anyways,
I'm going to get real weird with it. Anyway.
Anyways, I think it's time to wrap things up right now, especially since we're a bit low on time now. So, anyways, final thoughts.
Yes. Very quickly, some things that we didn't get around to talking about.
Yes.
The music's pretty good in this show.
Ooh, yes. It's all new music. Surprisingly, like, no Braveheart, no Butterfly, but the music is great. And I like the intros. Yeah. The intro, the outro, it's nice how they focus on Tai and Matt, and that the new intro, it features a new art style that looks really cool and colorful. So it's like, we do get to see the Digimon in the new art style, but I'm glad it's reserved for that second intro only.
Right. No telling. I'm not sure if that new outro is going to grow on me yet. Mm-hmm. It's only been around for like 2 episodes so far, and so far
it's been 1 week since you looked at it.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how that develops. But yeah, so far most of the music, it's all orchestral stuff, pretty good.
Yeah.
There's like new Digimon like, fight music.
When shit gets serious, when shit hits the fan, it starts to sound like A Night on Bald Mountain. Do you notice that?
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's like new Digimon fight music whenever they digivolve and start fight. Of course, in my mind, it'll always just be,
hey Digimon. Champions of the digital world.
But yeah, so I did want to mention that. That's something that I enjoy. And also, there's something else I wanted to bring up. I don't know. But general thoughts. If you're a fan of Digimon, give it a shot. Totally. And if you're not a fan of Digimon, I think that this is honestly a really good show to start out with. I think that if you're a fan of Digimon who wants to introduce new people to Digimon, but you don't really want to show them the old stuff, because let's be honest, it can be a little embarrassing at times.
It was a different time back then.
It was a different time. It's not a great job.
And it was done by Saban.
It was done by Saban.
So if you watch Power Rangers, you know what's up.
Right, so you don't have to try to explain Angela Anaconda to your friends. You can show them Digimon 2020 instead. I recommend it for all those groups of people. Anybody who's even remotely interested in anime, I say give it a shot. You know, it's I really enjoy it. I think it's a pretty darn good reboot of this franchise.
Absolutely, yes. I highly endorse this series, at least up until episode 15, and I will continue to follow this series as it continues.
Oh, another thing I wanted to mention. I really like how the humans get involved in the fights
Yes,
in the
that's
show.
also cool. Yeah.
And because that's sort of a distinction between Pokemon and Digimon. Pokemon have trainers, Digimon have partners. And in this show, the humans get in there. Ty's like punching rookie level virus Digimon. There's that moment in episode 8 when Matt throws his like cloak to like blind those two Digimon while Garurumon is fighting the big gorilla Digimon. Stuff like that really cool. Also, a lot of physical fighting between the Digimon, lots of tails and stuff, as opposed to just
no recycled animation of the same attacks over and over again.
Right, and they're not just there. Was one time that they reused a shot of Bergermon's meteor wing, but other than that, it's all been pretty unique, and I like that it's not just them spamming beam attacks so far. It's been pretty rough and tumble stuff.
One last thing, I do find it weird that they do quickly skip over the champion Digivolutions, yet when it comes to Agumon and Gabumon, you have to show the entire thing all the way through. I thought that was strange.
Yeah, Agumon and Gabumon definitely do get the most shine so far, but
that's Digimon's tradition. That's
Digimon. So yeah, if we've learned anything from this, it's that horn is pride. That was my favorite quote.
Yes. Oh fuck! We forgot Ogremon. Okay. I'll just say he has an amazing story, and I'm glad he was done. This new take on him was great to watch. His fight with his sacrifice against metal Tyrannomon, and his fight against one-on-one with Greymon, spectacular.
Right. It was a little weird to me at first that we weren't doing the whole rivalry between him and Leomon, but yeah, what they did with him was really well done, I thought. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Hopefully, eventually, we'll get around to Willis in America. Hopefully, we'll get around to Willis in America, see what he's up to. All those other Digidestined around the world, who knows if they're going to exist in this continuity?
Yeah. Well, there were a bunch of Digimon out there in that war, so who knows? Maybe all of them find their Digidestins around the world. Anyways. Yes.
Maybe you're right. So what about you? Do you fully endorse?
Hell to the freaking yes. Yes.
Well, all right. If you want to tell people about the next episode, it's going to be an interesting one.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be episode 20. So every 10 episodes, we'd like to do a guest episode. So we're going to bring on the one and only D-Man 1954 to talk about Wolf Cop. He's a wolf. He's a cop. It's a wolf cop. Can't get more basic than that. And I'm really excited to talk about it.
I mean, what else can you say?
I mean, yeah, there we go. That's the episode right there. We'll see how far we can stretch that conversation when we get there. So tune into that, if you like. I have been Andres Perez. Sorry, go ahead.
I wasn't going to say anything.
All right. I have been Andres Perez, a.k.a. Kaiju Noir.
And I've been Super DM64.
And until next time, everybody, take care.